Thanks for joining us. All right. Well, again, everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're so glad to have you, and for not only the Babson folks joining us today, but for everyone joining us from NEIA over in Marlborough, Mass. So let's jump in. I am Gina Reganini, Senior Associate Director for Affinity Programs and Annual Giving at Babson, and also chair of the Parent Connection Employee Resource Group. I'm so glad everyone is here today. Thank you. And thanks for joining us for our session, Preparing Our Kids to be Innovators and Entrepreneurs. First, some housekeeping before we begin. I want to give a special welcome to the guests of our presenters today over at the New England Institute, the New England Innovation Academy. Oh, I need a second cup of coffee today. And welcome to those folks from Babson. If you're not familiar with WebEx, I recommend using the stack layout for today's presentation, which you can adjust using the layout button in the top right corner of your video screen. And if you have any questions, please feel free to chat me directly. And speaking of questions, we'll have time for any of your questions about the presentation at the end of the session. So please feel free to add those into the chat and we'll go through them at the end. And now I'd like to dive into our session. Our special guests today are joining us from the New England Innovation Academy, or NEIA, the first middle and high school preparing future entrepreneurs and innovators through human-centered design, also known as design thinking. It opened last fall in Marlborough, Mass, with 70 students from grades 6 to 10, adding 11th grade this year, and eventually will be grades 6 through 12. Very exciting. The founders are serial entrepreneurs, innovation leaders, and most importantly, they are also parents. Matt Kressy is the founding trustee of NEIA. Prior to starting NEIA, Matt was the creator and founding director of MIT's Innovation Leadership Program, MIT Integrated Design and Management. He has two wonderful and super impressive daughters. Sophia got her Bachelor of Fine Art in Paint and Bachelor of Arts in Astrophysics. There they are right there. She worked at NASA, and when she asked NASA why she was chosen, they told her it was because of her background in painting. She's now at UNC getting her PhD in astrophysics, as one does. How impressive. And Isabel, currently a junior at the University of Vermont, majoring in biochemistry and minoring in math. She was the captain of her high school hockey team and led the team to state champion status. Congratulations, gosh. She recently founded the Women in STEM organization at UVM. And while she was in middle school, she took initiative from the school board and worked with her school to change the menu to be healthier and more sustainable. Have her come to my kitchen and help with that too. And next, we also welcome Raymond Chang, co-founder of NEIA. He's been a serial entrepreneur who took his first company to IPO at age 29. Last year, he took his new venture, Agrify, to IPO. Raymond has a special relationship with Babson. He may look familiar to you. He was an adjunct professor here, teaching international entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship thought and action. Raymond is the father of three wonderful children. Ray, a graduate of Cornell University, who is now building the new venture with Raymond. And Rochelle and Ryan are twins, both in middle school. In addition to their academic performances, Rochelle is an award-winning figure skater, and Ryan has won medals in over 70 tournaments. Super awesome kids you both have there, and we're so excited to have you speak to us. And also some of the NEIA students here with us today. And they'll talk about how we might, as parents, foster innovation and entrepreneurship in our own kids and how they're trying to prepare more future innovators and entrepreneurs through the New England Innovation Academy. Welcome, Raymond and Matt. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gina. That was quite the introduction. We appreciate it. And thank you all for having us and giving a few moments of your time, especially over the lunch hour. That's very nice. So I thought the first thing we'd talk about is why we have a school like NEIA, why we would go to such lengths and expense to create a school like NEIA. And, you know, I think it stems a lot from the experiences that all the founders had as students. But really what it comes down to is that, you know, kids are amazing. They are these beautiful human beings, and they're in a place of development in their lives. And you know, through the experience of life, you know, they basically get beaten up and make the best of whatever situation they're experiencing. And we really wanted to try to protect that amazing and purity that exists in students. These are two of our students, and I think you can see I mean, I just wish as adults we had that spirit, right? We had that kind of energy, we had that kind of vibrance, that kind of hope, right? And we lose that over time. And I think NEIA is particularly, I don't know what's going on here, sorry. You know, NEIA, we want to preserve that. We want our kids never to grow up. We want them never to, you know, they'll become adults, they'll be responsible, they have the skills and all that, but we want them to just have this vibrancy their whole life. Yeah, so I just thought I'd show you a couple of kids. But it is tough being a kid. You know, it's probably tougher now than it's ever been. You know, they are very concerned about how they perform. There's all kinds of high stakes testing going on these days. They are under incredible pressure from a variety of sources to do well in everything that they do, whether it's athletics to academics to whatever it might be. They probably, you know, many never feel good enough, right? They don't feel confident. They're uncertain of their future. Is what they're learning now going to be meaningful to what they do later on in life? You know, that connection. They feel in many cases there's this fear of missing out. Social media has really exacerbated that phenomena. It's very, you can be very conscious now about what you're missing out on. Before, you never even knew what you're missing out on because we weren't connected enough. You know, they're overscheduled. My daughters were working till like 11:30 or 12 every night on homework. And I remember leaving them at the kitchen table every night. I'd go to bed before them and I'd be like, you guys just stop. It's just not worth it. Stop it. Just get the B. A B is fine. Of course, they didn't listen to me, because kids don't listen to their parents, and they got A's. But so yeah, you know, it's very tough to be a kid these days. However, they're living in some pretty exciting times, right? So what do I mean by that? We're in the information age. So there's things like Google. And why do I bring this up? Well, information is easily accessed and it's immediate. I should also add, it's pretty accurate for the most part. Okay, so when I was a kid, we were really asked to memorize a lot of stuff. And that's because the internet didn't exist. If we needed a fact or to recall some history lesson or something that happened in the past, there was really no way of figuring that out unless you went to the library or had it memorized. And if you didn't have it memorized, going to the library really bogged down your efficiency in getting work done. Even spelling. I mean, now our spelling is corrected for us. You just have to be close. A lot of us have just stopped thinking about spelling and just let spelling checker do the work for us because it's just a lot faster to type that way. So the way we work has really changed, and the way we think has really changed. It puts a much greater emphasis on cognitive skills, on reasoning, on context, on connectivity, right, than it does on retention and recollection. In addition to that, we now use digital information to represent three-dimensional objects. We represent three-dimensional geometries using very sophisticated code that can be turned into tangible objects, which is just amazing. We take electrons that are just whipping through around our planet at the speed of light, and we convert those into plastic parts. It's like magic, right? That's like Star Trek stuff. And that's what we can do. And I can send something, I can create a part here on my desktop here in Massachusetts, and at the speed of light, I can send it to China, and that part will be machined for me. It's remarkable, right? So the tools are incredibly powerful for design and prototyping. And here's on the left side, you can see like this little fractalized rabbit, right, and a frog. Those are some examples of 3D printed parts, and that's become ubiquitous. 20 years ago, you would have needed a $200,000 device to do that. Now, you can get it for probably $200. So things have just really come a long way. On the right side, you see a factory, a production line. That's actually one of my production lines that was making a product for me many, many years ago. But I didn't even have to go to China for that production line to be ramped up, making thousands of products for my customer. The reason? The digital age. And that is just so powerful. And then not only that, all of my partners in creating this work were geographically distributed. We weren't in the same location. So the world has changed. We no longer work in the same buildings. We work completely differently. It's basically this very powerful digital age. And that has enabled entrepreneurship. Anyone can become entrepreneurial. You can have access to factories. You can have access to markets. You can have access to materials and engineering methods and practices. So I thought one person who's exemplifying that lifestyle is Raymond. And I thought, Raymond, it would be great if you could tell us maybe a little bit about how you personally thrive in this digital age, and how did you become the successful person that you are?
Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate the opportunity to be part of today's discussion. I am, truly humbled just, to have the opportunity to just kind of share my personal experience. And yeah, I think basically, pretty much throughout my life, I always kind of focus on trying to solve, big problems. And also understand that, it's really a process. And because it is a process, it's also something that you could perfect and learn and actually repeat, right? And that's why I believe NEIA comes into play, right? Because if entrepreneurship is not something you could learn, or it's basically just happens like that, then there's really no point to it. But because it is a process, it's something that you can repeat. You can learn from the experience, and also you could find ways to optimize and find ways to to perfect. So understanding that entrepreneurship is a process is actually super important, and there are actually skills that we can learn. And also understand that in kind of a digital era, it's really about continuous learning. We're being bombarded, right, with new information, new ideas, every day. But having the ability, like you said, to be able to discern and figure out what's real, what's not, right? And not get sucked into, just kind of a popularity game and all that. It's really, really super important, right? So teaching our students to have the discipline and have the ability to really kind of look at, what they're being share every day with a clear mind, and also to be able to make something out of it. It's of a great sort of importance. And then lastly, understand that entrepreneurship is it takes more than just one person, and also understand that the end goal is not about financial gains. Yes, if you actually do solve big problems, right, in this world, you will get rewarded, right? But money is not what you should be chasing after. It's a byproduct, of something that you do for the society, right? So you should be focusing on solving real problems and really just kind of focus on that, and you'll do well. And that's the reality, right? So in any event, I'm very, very just humble and glad to be part of NEIA and also have this great institution to hopefully educate and train the future leaders in the entrepreneurship space. And it's wonderful to be able to team up with experts such as yourself, Matt, because I think that this is really what the world needs at this moment.
Well, likewise, Raymond, thank you so much. And I love what you said. I just want to emphasize that idea that I think what I've seen in my life, the most successful people, their first priority is creating value, making a contribution.
Yeah.
And the money follows.
That's right.
And those people become wildly successful. But the people who have it reversed, they're kind of moderately successful. Yeah. So that's just wonderful. And then the beauty of that is how lovely a concept that is. That just by doing good and creating value, making a contribution, that just having the faith that you'll be taken care of. And it took me a long time to learn that lesson. So thank you for saying that today. All right, I'll move along for the sake of time. Thanks again, Raymond. That was awesome. So what is NEIA? In the most succinct form, this is, John and I were working on it. John Turner, big thank you for busting this out with me. NEIA is the first of its kind 6 through 12 school that uses human-centered design as a foundation for innovation, entrepreneurship, and leadership. And yeah, it's a mouthful, and I'm going to kind of explain that in more detail. I think by the end of the presentation, this will come into focus. So why don't we just dig into that? This is the link at NEIA, and the kids are here every day. And one of the wonderful things about it is that our teachers are always assembling the students to reflect on current events or a topic of the day. We have groundings every day that really cause, I think, the student body and the culture of NEIA to live in the moment and appreciate all that is and all that came before us to create this moment, right? So that is very touching and meaningful to me, and I couldn't be more proud of us for having established a culture that just embodies that and lives and breathes it every day. So how we do this, we really have these kind of 4 pillars, and they are, these are them on the left. I'm not going to read them to you because I'm going to go through them a little bit, so there's belonging, togetherness. Now, we could have just said belonging here, but I've added the word togetherness, and I started adding that to our vocabulary because belonging is the idea of feeling welcome, right? Feeling valued. I think we all know what that means. Togetherness, though, I think is a lovely word for describing making other people feel belonged, right? So belonging is sort of something that's good for us. When you are fostering togetherness, you are creating that feeling for others. So I want us to be responsible, take responsibility, not only for, belonging, but also for making sure that we are together and we are actively together at all times. And NEIA, again, has really done a phenomenal job. I mean, I also want to put in context, we're really been in session for 8 or 9 months now. I mean, it's just, we are really at the inception of this very new school. Entrepreneurship and innovation. Entrepreneurship, I mean, these are pretty self-explanatory, except I want to say one thing. As Raymond mentioned earlier, entrepreneurship, it's not about making money. I think when we say entrepreneurship, a lot of people immediately think, oh, people are interested in making money. That's not what we mean by entrepreneurship. We mean being resourceful. We mean creating value from nothing. We mean that someone has a growth mindset, has a can-do attitude, that sees the world as a massive sea of opportunities that they are going to go out and flourish in. That's what we mean by entrepreneurship. By innovation, what do we mean? Well, innovation by itself is sort of it's a double-edged sword. Innovation just means creating something that's different. We mean creating something that's different and good. Something that's different and beautiful. Something that's different and causes love. That's what we mean by innovation. And as Raymond mentioned earlier, you do these things well, or just do these things, the money will follow. So we don't worry about that too much. Integrated and experiential. That's really about how our curriculum is designed. So by the word integrated, we mean that when someone learns something in science class, it could be a concept, a principle, and that same principle might be built upon in Innovation Studio, or that principle might be investigated in humanities, or it might be written about in humanities. And so this is something that most schools find incredibly difficult to do because there's a huge time burden on teachers to develop those types of sophisticated connections. It's very hard to do. And you can't do it unless you have a school full of teachers that are passionate about doing it. And we have created a school that has all teachers that are passionate about making that integration happen. And again, that's something I couldn't be more kind of grateful for. Experiential, that's sort of self-explanatory. Everything that the students, they learn a concept, we immediately have them making something, or they're writing about it, or they're immersed in it, they're making, they're creating, they have something tangible at the end of that lesson. So we want everything to be experiential. We also love to add real world criteria, real world applications or context to whatever they're experiencing. And that helps them understand why what they're learning now has the potential to be relevant when they leave. And we believe that also helps them retain the concepts and principles that we teach. This is a little Venn diagram that, and it's, this has been evolving, but this sort of shows you how we think about our curriculum at NEIA. We basically have 7 subjects. We have arts, languages, humanities, math, Innovation Studio, science, and wellness. And, I do want to make a note that wellness has a seat at the table because we want our students to be well. We want them to be happy. We want them, I say the word vibrant a lot. We want them to be vibrant and hopeful. That's what makes someone effective. That's what makes someone successful. And that's what gives someone the drive to push through when things get a little bit difficult. All of these subjects, we try to get them to overlap in this sort of integration mode, right? With these integration activities. We actually have a room that we have dedicated to integration activities. It's a little underutilized at the moment. We're going to fix that, but you know, that's how much of an emphasis we put on this integration stuff. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that slide. So we thought it'd be great if you heard from one of our wonderful students, Lila, to tell us about maybe how that integration stuff is working.
Hi everyone. So I don't know if it's clear enough, but as you can see, the slide says, my name is Lila. I'm a 9th grade day student, and I'm super excited to represent and advocate for NEIA as a 9th grade day student. And so I would definitely say that the biggest difference coming from public school to NEIA is integration. And so coming from my public schools and my previous schools, I've never really had that great of a passion for learning. I never really saw how, like, the relation between what we were learning in math and how I was going to use it in the real world, or what I was learning in science and how I was actually going to use this to, like, do marketing at some, like, little box office at my job, you know? So I never really felt like what I was learning was going to be helpful in the future. But once I came to NEIA, I realized like I'm learning here stuff that I'm going to use for the rest of my life. And like they say a lot, that I'm learning about things that I'm going to use for jobs that haven't even been created yet. And so I would say like the biggest thing from the biggest difference is integration. And so like an example is in humanities, I'm learning about speech and just a lot of public speaking. And so then I can transfer those skills over to Innovation Studio, where I pitch my kitchen utensil and all my other good like entrepreneurship ideas, and I'm able to use those skills in another subject. So I feel like I'm using everything from each subject to thrive in the next subject. And so I feel like at NEIA, I'm actually being prepared to go into the real world and try my best and like go for it, you know, take it head on and not just be like scared and just go to college, do business, go into like some box little office, you know? And so like kind of like how Matt said, like kids have so much vibrancy, and I feel like at my previous schools, I was kind of trapped in a box. I wasn't able to express my vibrancy. But once I got here, I think with integration and everything, I kind of realized like what I'm doing in school and why I'm doing it. And I just think like I really understand it now, and I've grown like a passion for learning. I'm excited to come to school every day. So I think the biggest thing is integration, like for NEIA. I really believe in everything we're doing here, and integration is like a very, very key part of it, and we're doing really great in that area. So I'm glad to speak about that. Thank you.
Awesome, Lila. Thank you so much. That's great. And stay on top of us, okay? Make sure we keep doing a good job. All right. So let's see. I will continue here with the next pillar, human-centered design. So you've heard that before, probably. Design thinking is another word for that. And here is a little diagram that explains human-centered design. In the most simplistic form, human-centered design or design thinking is really the act of asking someone what they're thinking and feeling about a given topic before you create something for them. So if you're creating I don't know, let's say you're creating, I don't know, a lamp for somebody. Before you make it, you go and you talk to them and say, hey, what kind of lamps do you like? What colors do you like? How do you use your lamp? You know, and you write that stuff down. And then you go and then you get innovative. You create all kinds of concepts, and then you down select, and then you actually maybe pick one or two to show to the person you're designing for. And with any luck, they'll say, oh my God, that's exactly what I wanted. Thank you very much. And then you can make that for them. So that's human-centered design. It's really sort of a needs-based product development process. It's pretty well known, but very few companies use it with any kind of real passion. The other beautiful thing about this is it also makes a wonderful citizen. Imagine if we had elected officials using this process as they designed experiences and policy for us, the citizens, right? If we taught human-centered design in all schools, our entire society would be proficient, or at least have higher awareness of human-centered design. And now the experiences that we all create for each other would be more thoughtful and maybe more beautiful, and maybe even they'd be exciting and inspiring. You know, imagine if it would be exciting to file your taxes because it's so much fun. Hey, it's possible. Human-centered design, well, maybe that's not possible, but human-centered design would get us closer there. So that's human-centered design, and we try to take this process and use it in everything that we do. You know, for example, if the students are studying maybe inequality issues, they might go and talk to people who are suffering from inequality and to understand their perspective before they form an opinion. And then they might write about that inequality. Another way this can be used would be, let's say that you are designing a new experience, you know, for the school. Let's say we're a new policy or process. We might use human-centered design to talk to all our stakeholders, the students and the parents and the teachers. And then we take all that information, their thoughts and their needs and their emotions, and then we use that to inform a design process that will create some inspired solutions. So very, very useful process that we teach. I spent more time on that than I wanted to, but there you have it. And so we've taken, so we have this innovation studio thing that you saw on that Venn diagram. And this is sort of innovation studio laid out over 7 years. And really what it does is it takes that human-centered design process and other design processes. We teach that to the students, teach those processes to the students, and then we have them develop products, services, experiences, or social solutions, you know, or impactful solutions. And so, you know, just make a long story short, here on this slide, you can see that in 6th grade, they do a whole bunch of very short projects. And then as they get older, the projects get deeper, the processes get more involved, the fidelity of the products get higher, and it culminates in a capstone project in 11th grade as an individual passion project where they will go out into the real world and create something or solve something. And in grade 12, they'll do something similar to that, except they'll do it on a team. And we all know collaborating and working on a team adds a whole nother level of complexity. We're having the students work on teams throughout their entire time at NEIA, but grade 12 is where it's really quite serious. All right, so that's pretty much that. So yeah, project work is at the heart of Innovation Studio and at NEIA. And so Innovation Studio, here's some slides of Innovation Studio. You know, we had them design clocks using Adobe Illustrator, a vector-based drawing program. And they had to use a laser cutter to output that file. And so here you can see a clock that was cut and all the numbers were cut. And you know, it was engraved with some text, and a clock motor was put through that hole with some hands. Here are some other examples of that. We had some mirrored acrylic. We did concept modeling in cardboard, you know, scrap cardboard. Some of the clocks were laser cut, and then later the students painted on top of it. This was experimenting with painting on the backside. But we just, in this case, Charlize was just painting on the glass of our on the wall, and then she could go on the other side and look at the glass and see how it looked on the other side. Here are a bunch of the clocks that came out of this project. And by the way, these are 11-year-olds. So think about that. And I'll tell you, I had to think hard about that because their quality of work, what I'm not kidding you, was about as good as the work I've seen at MIT. And that's a very strong statement to say, and I wouldn't say it unless I believed it to be true. It was pretty remarkable. Here's another project in Innovation Studio where we bought the students the sort of Bluetooth speaker kit. You know, it had a little printed circuit board with an amplifier on it and a battery holder and a couple of speakers and there's some sockets, everything plugged together. So they learned about electronics and sockets. And then we had them design their own speaker enclosure where they learned about sound and resonant frequency and how sound and air kind of work together. Well, how sound uses air to create sound in your eardrum. And science class at the same time was talking about, you know, frequency, and actually built a Rubens tube, which is this really cool thing. I don't have a picture of it. I wish I did, but it's basically, it uses fire to show a sound wave and its frequency and amplitude, which was very, very cool. And then math class got involved, where math started talking about teaching about surface area, calculating surface area and volume. So again, integration always kind of being woven into what we're doing. This is just a close-up of the laser cutter. All our students give presentations. We want them up and presenting all the time. You know, that's how you become confident speaking to other people. And by having confidence speaking to other people, you can have an impact on other people. And so if our students are learning and doing beautiful, great things that are loving and good for the world, we want them to be persuasive. We want them to be heard, and we want them to feel confident doing it. So they're doing this all the time. And I got to say, it's really been fulfilling and rewarding to see them evolve and become comfortable doing this. And to actually, I think they actually embrace it and look forward to it. So it's wonderful. More Innovation Studio slides. You know, this is a team, Alfalca, really hilarious name. I won't get into it, but, you know, really, you know, this is Owen, I think, you know, doing an outline drawing of some trees on a window. You know, just, I thought this was beautiful, so we show it to you. We teach them how to draw, you know, just as we taught them simple 2-point perspective, and then they went nuts. And they, you know, they learned it in a way that was fun and exciting, and then they just went crazy and started drawing beautiful things like this. Imagine people in your business meetings sketching solutions in this way. How powerful is that? And then we have them create products. So the 9th and 10th graders, they're all working on kitchen utensils right now. First thing they do is they do sort of an opportunity identification process where they have to figure out how they're going to spend their time, money, and energy in the spring semester. And so in this case, this team was talking about handmade soap, and they scored it for its potential to be desirable, potential to be feasible, and potential to have profit or business viability. So let's see, we are, and then to speak about this, we have another student, Owen. If you would love to talk about Innovation Studio, that'd be great.
Yeah, so Innovation Studio is by far my favorite class at NEIA. Being able to go in and work really hands-on is a wonderful experience that you will get at no other school at the middle school or high school level, at least to this extent. So we ended up starting our process. So from 9th grade, we're working on kitchen utensils. My project is a magnetic coaster. We started with an ideation process. So we came up with all the different ideas, and then we got up in front of the class, we presented those ideas, we worked on that skill of sort of talking and pitching stuff. Then we went back, we narrowed down the ideas we wanted to work on, and then we started getting to sketching. And so we had to map out the desirability of the product we're creating. We had to map out the feasibility. So how are we going to make it? Is it able to be put together? And then the viability, which is it able to make money on the market? As you saw an example of one of the slides that we presented, and everyone got up with their group and presented their desirability, feasibility, viability, their cash flow projections, which is how much money they're going to price them for, how much money they're going to spend on it. And we really got to go through an actual business-like process, and it was amazing. Currently, we're in the prototyping phase. So we already got our first prototypes. We were able to work in the hive with laser cutters, 3D printers, cardboard, whatever materials we wanted to make it looks like and a works like model. Looks like just had to look like the product, it's kind of in the name, and then works like also in the name. It just had to function as the product. And we had to make those two examples. And then we got up again, we worked on that skill, we presented back to the class, we got feedback, and now we're working on taking that feedback, adjusting our prototypes, and then we're going to present it back as a final prototype. And then we get to go off and actually make the product. And at the end of the year, on June 10th, I believe, there'll be a sales gala at NEIA, which you are all invited to come, check out some of the products. I know there's a little bit of product placement there, but it's okay. But yeah, Innovation Studio is just wonderful. We get to really do a lot of hands-on work, and it's by far the best part of every day.
That's awesome, Owen. And Owen, I'm so proud of you for plugging the sales gala. Owen knows that his grade is dependent on selling all the product that he's going to manufacture. So he's already working on that part of the project. Good thinking, Owen. Awesome. Thank you.
Matt, if I could just quickly jump in, we've got a couple of minutes left.
Okay, thank you so much, Gina. I'm sorry, I'm running late. I'll speed
No,
things
you're
up.
perfect. You're right on time. No problem.
All right, okay. And then, we have these partnerships. This is our partnership with you, with Babson. You are coming in, Babson is coming in to speak about entrepreneurship, and it's just been phenomenal. We've had a bunch of teachers from Babson come, and it's just really, it just adds a whole dimension and excitement to what we're doing. We have another partnership with Dartmouth with their Rossius program. And my God, it's just they teach basically languages. In our case, we have Mandarin and we have Spanish, and it's just incredibly effective, and it's incredibly fun. I love it. And I thought that what we could do is have Paul talk a little bit about partnerships, because he's been he's very passionate about these partnerships. So Paul, can you tell us about what you're thinking?
Hello, everyone. I'm Paul. I am an international student at NEIA. And I just got to say, with these partnerships, this is such a surreal experience. And, it's so emotional for me to come and, speak about this, because, every time I think back and, I think about how lucky I am to be at NEIA and be able to experience all this. Like Matt said, we have partnerships with Dartmouth College, Babson, MIT, and Harvard. And a kind of a little snick is UNC. We had one of our administrators' daughters come over and tell us about her experience. And the cross culture that we've been able to experience at NEIA, just seeing people from different backgrounds come in and being able to talk to us, have the ability to come in and share with us their experience, is really, really amazing. And it's something that we really value at NEIA. And while we do this, it's not just about the partnerships and the names of the schools that, we're partnering with. It's not just about MIT. It's not just about Harvard. It's about what we're learning from there. It's about the networking that we're making, which I think NEIA has been so accommodating about. And while we're networking and making all these connections, we are being able to learn from all these targeted activities that we're doing. For example, we've just been doing an entrepreneurship and leadership activity with Babson College, and I had the opportunity to go to the campus and visit Babson College, and it was just a real experience. It was amazing. I always knew that Babson was, a really good school. I always knew I wanted to go to Babson, but me stepping onto that campus and seeing, how everyone behaves, seeing how the lecturers present themselves, seeing how, all the professors, how come they are with the undergraduate classes and everything, was an experience that I never thought I would be able to do. So I think NEIA has been has been so accommodating, has been so amazing in this process with helping us make these partnerships. And, I think doing all this, it's also helped us really understand where our focus is at NEIA, and trying to understand that, okay, you have all these options. You have, Babson, you have Dartmouth, you have all these options, but, where's your focus? What are you passionate about? Passion building is something that, through these partnerships is something that NEIA has been able to help us achieve and understand where we are, what we really want to do, what we're talented in, and what we're trying to focus on. And like I said, it's not something that everyone gets to experience in their lifetime. As an international student from Africa, I never thought that, I'd have this opportunity, but me being able to get onto ground and, seeing what's happening and trying to understand how much they're doing and how much NEIA cares for me as an individual to be able to take me all these lengths and how far we're going. I think it's surreal. It's amazing. And I think it would be such a great opportunity for everyone to experience. And I feel like if we could integrate programs like this everywhere in the world, everyone would have the same excitement and attitude that that I have right now. Because, like I said again, I never thought that this would be going on and this would be happening. So by far, I think, we talked about the integration and everything. I think this for me has been the best experience I've had at NEIA. And, let me say, this is really coming from the heart. It's not rehearsed, nothing like that. And I think, I gotta say thank you to NEIA, thank you to Matt, thank you to, Raymond, and thank you to everyone who has been a part of this experience and helped me get to this level. So
Awesome, Paul. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm going to give you that $100 bill after this. All right. I've got to speed up a little bit here. So we will bring in also guest speakers, and just recently lined up this guy, a good friend of mine, to come speak at our annual gala, who was part of the MIT blackjack team that the movie 21 was based on. He then started a company called SolidWorks, which he sold to Dassault Systems, and then created another company called Onshape. And so you can imagine the sort of amazing stories he'll be telling us. So do come on June 10th. That will you'll get to see him as well. And so I'll just finish with our hope. We're doing all this work. The teachers are working so hard. Parents are taking a risk with us. The students, I think, are pretty darn happy. But the rest of us are working really hard, and there's a reason for it, because we hope, that we're going to be creating the heroes for the digital age, like these people, that will do good things for the world, using innovation and entrepreneurship. When you think about the impact that, think about the biggest positive environmental impact made by a single individual. It's probably by Elon Musk, by converting transportation to electricity as opposed to fossil fuels. He didn't do that because he's working for an NGO. He didn't do that because someone gave him a bunch of money as a charity. He did that in a way that used capitalism to create a benefit for the world that sustains itself financially. That's how we fix this world. And that's why I'm so passionate about NEIA, because we're creating people like him, or at least we're trying to. And so, we want to create people with vision, people with courage, and people with love. We're not scared to say love at NEIA. And we're doing that so that our students can make real what they imagine. That's a magical thing. So our students can learn empathy and love with a process. Like Raymond said, there's a process for creating empathy, which results in love, and that's human-centered design. So our students can make a living as they imagine and create these things. And so our students will be happy, vibrant, and whole human beings. And so our students become impactful citizens and make the world a better place. So that's why we're doing this. That is our hope. We're going to have to wait a couple of decades to see how it plays out. But we really appreciate your positive energy towards our endeavors. All right, so thank you very much. If you have, let's open it up to Q&A, okay? And when that's over, if we haven't answered all your questions, you can always get in touch with this amazing woman, Lily Fu. She will answer all your questions, and what she can't answer, she will find the answers to, or get it to the right people. So yes, any questions? Love to hear your thoughts, comments. We need some like elevator music, you know, like.
Thank you so much, Matt. That was just awesome and so impressive, and just inspiring students. What energy. That's so great. Thank you so much. We don't have any questions currently in the chat, so I encourage folks, you know, please feel free to just speak up. Make sure that you're unmuted. I just made that mistake 2 minutes ago. You know, 3 years into this pandemic, and I'm still muting myself. I do have a question actually from my wonderful colleague, Michael Bruni. His question is, why start 6th grade and not sooner?
Well, I think that's that's more about scaling the operation. Our strategy to scaling was very carefully thought out. We deviated from that a little bit, but the idea was to start with just, you know, 2 grades, 6th and 9th. And then the following year, we do 6th, 7th, 9th, and 10th. Then we do 6th, 7th, 8th, and then 9, 10, and 11. And then on our 4th year, we'd add 12 and kindergarten. And then we'd build out the grade school. So it's a scaling strategy that we have in place. And that's pretty much why we're doing that. Raymond, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's absolutely right. Eventually, we want this to be, you know, K to 12, but we're starting out with grades 6 and 9, and so we want, you know, every student to at least have 4 years of experience at NEIA. If they come in at the high school level, and obviously if they come in earlier, that would be even better. But you know, we do have actually enough facility and buildings to go all the way from K to 12, and that's sort of the long-term goal for NEIA.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Raymond. We do have another question from Larry. Do you teach, oh, it just scrolled. Hang on. Do you teach computer science and AI in Innovation Studio classes?
We plan to do that. We're not doing that at the moment, but that is something that we'll be adding for sure.
Super. And another question from Meng. This is great, everyone. Thanks so much for your questions, and please continue to put them in the chat. Meng says, exciting program. I'm curious if you have a curriculum for each subject or an integrated curriculum and how you use them in the classroom. Great question.
Yeah, you can, our website has a very nice explanation of our curriculum. So feel free to go there. And that is neiacademy.org. But the short answer to your question is that each subject has its own curriculum, but that curriculum will overlap with the other subjects. In some cases, we have subjects that teach things in an integrated way within the subject. So like, for example, science might teach biology, chemistry, and physics, you know, together. And that, for some people, is a little tough to digest. For some parents, it's a little like, whoa, ho, ho, wait a minute. How do I demonstrate to colleges? How does my child demonstrate to colleges that they're excellent at physics, right? And our answer to that would be that colleges are pretty sophisticated these days. They understand that there's not always a correlation to GPA or test scores with actual competency in a subject. And what they're now trying to do is really understand the depth of a student's knowledge. And by teaching those things in an integrated way, connections are made that cause the learning to be deep, to be profound, to have not only a sort of analytical or cerebral understanding of something, but to feel it, to have an intuitive understanding of how these things all work together. So we feel very strongly that this is the most effective way to evolve a human being's learning, okay? And, you know, so we have responsibilities to get kids into college, but we also have responsibilities to create unlimited potential for them as a human being. And we're erring on the latter. But this is a rich topic. We're talking about it all the time, and we're really excited to be on the forefront of that.
Thanks, Matt. Another question, actually, follow-up from Michael. What can parents of younger kids do before they're old enough to be in NEIA?
Oh boy. I would say expose them to as much as you possibly can and give them freedom to take things apart that they'll never put back together, to break things, to understand the difference between how, you know, bend a fork, bend a piece of aluminum, bend a piece of titanium, you know, just let them be, you know, those are cheap lessons. I remember my mother was in my house and my kids were, my daughter Sophie, she was probably 7 years old, and Sophie was like destroying some object in our house, and my mother was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? You know, how she's destroying the house." And I think it was maybe at a $50 device that Sophie was destroying. And I said, "Mom, think about the learning she's getting for $50. That's cheap, right? We have to think that way as parents."
Yeah. I think the other, if I may just chime in here, it's to basically help our children to really kind of find out what their passion is. You know, I totally agree with what Matt says. You know, create the opportunity for them to find out and learn. You know, with my own children as well, I realized very early on, because, you know, growing up in an Asian family, my mom and dad, you know, they were like tiger dad, tiger mom, and obviously they pushed me in one direction. But I realized very early on that, you know, that could only go so far. And so when my daughter, you know, she discovered figure skating at one of her, you know, she was invited to a birthday party, and she basically put on that skates. And immediately, like, you know, after that, she was decided that she wants to be, you know, doing figure skating, you know, all her life. And in fact, there were many times where, you know, she got concussions, she got injury, and we even tried to talk her out of it. Because, you know, obviously it's a very, you know, intense and frankly speaking, you know, dangerous sport. People don't realize it, but it really is. But you know, like, the first thing she wants to do when the doctor clears her from, you know, concussion is she wants to get back on the ice again. You know, and that's passion, right? So yeah, it's really just kind of, you know, let's help them to figure out, you know, what they want to do. That's really the key.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And that's actually a great way to wrap up. We've just hit 1 o'clock. So I want to encourage folks, if you have additional questions, Lily has added her contact information in the chat. So thank you all for joining us, and a very special thank you to Matt, Raymond, Owen, Lila, Paul. Paul, we'll see you at Babson in a couple of years. And I want to also give a special shout out to Jossie, who is from NEIA and has been an amazing resource and partner in putting this event together today. So thank you to all of you. Please do contact NEIA if you've got any questions. Please contact me if you've got any questions, Babson related or parent ERG related. But thank you all for your time. It was wonderful to spend time with you today.
Thank you, Gina. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great
care.
day.
Bye.
Bye.